situation with China. And last night I was reading some articles about Pelosi going to Taiwan and our government's reaction to that, or maybe the better way to phrase that is our government's lack of reaction to that, and how this just doesn't seem to be the same United States, same United States government that I grew up knowing and loving. That same United States that would go out and bring it. Basically, that was the attitude here in the United States. We were invincible. And when anybody said anything like this, it was basically a bring it on. But these days, it's different. And I couldn't help but thinking last night is like, when did we turn into France? When did we turn into Europe, where this is our attitude towards everything? And why is that? I think that is the bigger question that I'm wondering about is why is that? I wonder about the stuff going on in Ukraine because of the Biden ties way before this stuff all started to happen. I wonder about the stuff going on in China because of the Biden dealings, the Hunter Biden stuff, the Eric Swalwell and the Chinese spy, and all of these politicians basically that seem to be, hesitant to say anything bad about China, and even Hollywood too. I get Hollywood a little bit because they've got the money into it, right? But, the politicians and all that. So there's a lot of smoke here that I think could possibly lead to a fire down the line. And I'm going to talk about their alliance with Russia and even North Korea kind of poking its head in there saying, hey, guys, don't forget about me. But tomorrow on the Survival Preppers podcast, I'm sure Brian and I are going to go into this in a little bit more detail too. I want to get his thoughts on all of this stuff. If you're watching this after, you'll have to go over to the Survival Preppers channel and look for that live stream. But should be a pretty good one tomorrow. But with this Pelosi stuff, she's basically said that she's going to go over there or a stopover trip or whatever it is. And I really don't care about that at all. The only thing I really care about is they're going to actually let her come back. I wish they wouldn't do that. But there was this article that I found that there's a state media commentator saying that they should basically shoot down her plane. And I know this isn't a government official, and this is not like Xi Jinping said something like this. But the response should have been a more heavy-handed response than the one you got from Biden, because Biden basically got he's getting off a plane, and I heard a reporter talking to him, and he asked him, what do you think about this situation and about Pelosi going to Taiwan? And he basically said, well, the military doesn't want her to do it. So it's never been this way. Like I said, in my lifetime, it's never been this way in the United States. We need a president, in my opinion, we need a president that is going to say, you know what, we're not dealing with that crap. Bring it, China. You know what? You probably don't want to do something like that, China. Love him or hate him, with Trump in there, the response would have been different. And the response on the media would have been insane. Oh my God, he's starting to, he's trying to start World War III and all that nonsense. But with this, it's almost as if he gets a pass. It's just like, oh, leave Sleepy Joe alone. He's got these really, really good plans behind the scenes, and we're going to, they know not to mess with us. He doesn't have to ask. I think it's really interesting that Russia decided to invade Ukraine after Trump got out. I think it's really interesting that China is talking a big game about Taiwan. I think it's interesting that North Korea is starting to act up again, all because we're presenting weakness, I think, to the world. Regardless of what's going on behind the scenes, because I don't know how strong our military is. I don't know what the plans are in place for all of this stuff. But I know that the president of the United States is supposed to present this image of strength. And that is not what this is. And you've got Putin that sees this stuff. You've got China that sees this stuff. North Korea that sees this stuff. Everybody in NATO and Europe sees this and doesn't say anything about it in front of the camera. But I guarantee you behind the scenes, they're laughing their asses off. So it's really frustrating to me. And ironically, last night, I was watching Olympus Has Fallen as I was reading some of this stuff. And I was thinking, this is exactly, I think, what Biden thinks. Like, if he says anything that is going to, aggravate Xi Jinping or something, this is what he thinks is going to happen. Now, I know it's a fiction movie. I get that, but that's the feeling I get, that nobody wants to. There's either a whole lot of dirt that China has on a whole lot of people, or nobody wants to push this stuff because everything, every tax dollar they can get their hands on is going out to Ukraine right now, and they can't afford to go over and protect our ally Taiwan like we should, which brings up another point of, if you're an American ally these days, how much does that really mean? You've got Afghanistan, you've got Taiwan. Unless you're in the UN, unless you're in Europe, it really doesn't mean a whole lot that, hey, we've got your back, we're going to take care of you, you don't worry about it, Taiwan. It's going to basically be a aftermath type thing, and politicians doing their spin and trying to cover things up. So I think it's really interesting, especially when you consider that Mark Milley, and this is part of the Biden administration. I don't know how much credit I give all of them, but Milley was saying that China is becoming more aggressive, more dangerous with U.S. allies. And you see that with all of this stuff happening. But with this administration, it's almost a non-issue, and it's really I don't know if I want to call it frustrating. I don't know if I want to call it coincidental. I don't know what I want to call it, but it is weird that they're just kind of letting this stuff. It's almost a, we can't do this. It's like if you owe money to the mob or something, seems like to me. And there is a lot of smoke to this fire when you think about it, because for 4 years in a row, we heard this stuff about Trump. Russia, 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 Russia. That's all we heard. I mean, day in, day out. And there really wasn't anything there. There were some strings they could pull and hope that there was something at the end of it, but there wasn't there other than the PP tapes and this fake dossier and all this fabricated stuff. With this, there is something there, and it's we don't know what it is necessarily, because it won't get investigated, because nobody is willing to talk about it. Everybody pushes it under the rug. Granted, it's Hunter Biden. He's not an elected official or anything. But when he talks about the big guy, and when he talks about these deals in China, Biden selling oil to China, even though it's lower quality oil, doing those things don't raise any red flags these days. And that is concerning, because it concerns me where we're headed as a world, and where this country is headed, basically being at the beck and call of China and Russia, and, maybe not Russia at this point, but definitely China, because China kind of runs the world these days, right? I mean, they export everything to everybody, and these NATO countries in the United States, we export our carbon footprint over to China. So it's like they've got us. I want to try to keep this clean, but it's like they've got us right where they want us. So it's just, very concerning to me, all of this stuff going on. Another thing that was kind of interesting last night, and it kind of has nothing to do with anything with this, but as I was watching Olympus Has Fallen, Lisa and I were talking, and it seems like this whole January 6th committee, this show, this fiasco that they're putting on, this primetime event, it seems like this, in that movie, this is the type of situation that they want the American people to believe happened on January 6th.
RPG!
I just thought that was funny, because that is basically the story they're telling with this whole thing. And that is not what I watched with my own eyes on that day. And granted, I'm not saying there wasn't some crazy stuff that went on, but the way that they are portraying it is not the way that it happened. And it's just another, I hate to, use this saying because it's overused all the time, but this it's just another witch hunt. And it's literally a witch hunt, not like President Trump and all this, they, overused term. It's literally the same damn thing that they did in Salem when they were going for witches. You create a story, and then you try to find the evidence to back up that story first. I mentioned with our society decaying how it's guilty until proven innocent these days. This is a perfect example of that. At any rate, I just wanted to talk about that because I thought it was pretty funny. I was watching that movie last night and I was thinking, this is the type of stories they try to, they take something small and they put it into a Hollywood blockbuster. And this is the type of situation they're trying to tell us happened on January 6th. And when you look at the tape, when we watched it with our own eyes, it was nothing like this. All right, so a couple other things with this as well, along with the Pelosi thing and along with us not standing up and saying, hey, you know what? If you do anything, China, you're in for it. And I'm not saying nuclear war. I'm not saying that we need to be ready to go on attack or anything. But when you're a president and you show weakness, that's what you're going to get. That's what other countries are going to see, and they're going to respond in kind to that. When you're a president, you show strength. It doesn't mean that World War III is going to kick off because you said something mean to Xi Jinping. It's you show strength. You don't back down to the bullies. You don't negotiate with terrorists. And that's where this country, like I said, seems like we're turning into France. That's where this country seems to be headed. My hope is that the military and the behind the scenes stuff, the Pentagon, they've got this stuff figured out, because with the weakness that we're showing in the White House, it's just emboldening, I think, all of these people is saying, hey, if not now, when? We've got the perfect guy in there that doesn't know can't even tie his own shoes. This administration, with everybody that's been put into this administration, has been put in there because of what they are rather than who they are. So who knows what, if they even understand the whole process of this wartime, and that's exactly what we're in. We're in a wartime type situation. But who knows what these people do? Or no. It reminds me a little bit of Benghazi. And I know Benghazi was a lot smaller scale, but it's the same type of situation where you have the men and women, the brave soldiers that know what the hell they're doing, and they can't do what they're supposed to do because of the people up top trying to figure out what decisions to make and what decisions, if they make this decision, how is it going to affect their polls and all of those types of things. And I think this is on a much larger scale the same type of situation, because you've got the military that may be ready, and who knows what sort of capability they actually have. You hear a whole lot of stories about them worrying more about gender identity than basic training and stuff like that. But who really knows? I mean, we don't. So I don't want to, go that route all that much. But we know that the people pulling the strings severely affect the people on the ground. And even if those people on the ground can do their job and do it better than anybody in the world, they're still beholden to these people in Washington that are pulling the strings and making the decisions and telling them what they can and can't do. So that is my concern with this whole situation. If it does escalate, what do we do if China does go into Taiwan, decides to take it over? We're putting all our money over in Ukraine, so it's not like, well, I guess they can just print more. I was going to say it's not like we have more. But they can just print more and then they can go help them out. But are they really? Are they really going to do that, or are they just going to posture and do all this stuff? The other thing that is kind of, I don't know if it's concerning to me. I think it's interesting because I think it's possible that we have some technology like this, like the ectoskeletons and stuff like that. But China is doing biological research as for enhanced super soldiers that can go longer without food, that have longer endurance. And things like that. Now, there are rules and laws out here in the United States that would deter us from doing the things that they do over there. But it wouldn't surprise me if we were trying to figure out the same type of stuff here, or if the United States, because of our laws and everything, we're just kind of paying attention to what they're doing and what their breakthroughs are and how they're doing stuff. I know and we've talked about it on the Survival Preppers a few times with DARPA and the technology that's coming out and drone technology. I mean, all sorts of different things that we probably have no idea what type of military capabilities we have at this point until something kicks off and all of a sudden they have to use those and we're like, wow, we had that. I think the same thing is true for China. So my concern with all this, with the Chinese super soldiers, with Russia, and North Korea kind of poking its head up now, saying, "Hey, don't forget about me," is this new? I see a new axis and allies sort of forming, just like you saw in World War II, where you had Japan, you had Germany, you had Italy, all these, the Axis, right? Right now you have Russia, you have China that are getting together. This article right here from Zero Hedge, which is a pretty good article, talks about how China and Russia and the BRICS countries are trying to figure out a new global reserve currency. Now, I don't know if this would work or not. I do know that without China, it doesn't work at all, I don't think. But the same thing is true with like the United Nations. Without the United States, it doesn't work at all. So it is possible that this stuff happens, especially with us weakening ourselves here in the United States. But I see this new sort of Axis and allies kind of getting formed. You've got these Western countries that are all worried about going green and, weakening themselves basically to the point where they, it's going to be easy. And maybe that's why we're in Ukraine, because it would be easy for Russia to just go in and steamroll them. Without the United States involved, I don't know that there would be any sort of UN or the UN nations. I don't know how many of those nations would still exist these days if it wasn't for the United States in World War II. And by the United States, I don't mean the United States government. I mean the men and women that went over there and went over and said, "No, Hitler, no, you're done." That mentality, that American mentality. Without this American mentality that people seem to kind of look down upon, like, oh, those damn Americans. Without us, they wouldn't even be around. So it is concerning to me that, anyway, back to the whole Axis and allies stuff, it is concerning to me that this type of situation seems to be forming again. You've got these westernized countries that want to think about green energy and want to, quote unquote, save the planet, which the planet's not going anywhere. It's the people that are going to be gone if anything happens. So, but you've got these countries that are doing that stuff, and we're following suit. Like I said, when did we turn into France? Because that seems like who we are, just a really big version of France these days. But with that, you've got these other countries that are just not taking those steps. They are building up their military. They're building up their strength. And what does that mean when it all, say it does come down to some sort of situation where China and Russia do want to be that global currency, or do want to take over Taiwan, or take over even more than just Ukraine? What situation does that spur? Is that a World War III type situation? And how far long is that down the line? Because I don't see anything going in the right direction these days. The only thing I think that's stopping any sort of conflict between the United States and China is our dependence on each other for stuff. The economy in China is dependent on the United States. The United States is dependent on all the stuff that comes in from China. That is the only thing right now that is keeping things from exploding, I think. And at the same time, that is the very reason why there should be a more stern response to China when they say she better not come here, or anytime somebody says anything good about Taiwan, you get this, they get chastised by China. And it's absolutely ridiculous that we take that crap. Never in my life have we ever taken that crap as Americans. We've always fought back, and we've always said, well, you better not. You know what? Probably not a good idea, Xi Jinping, to be pulling that crap. If you want to start something, then start it. And it doesn't mean that they got their fingers on the nuclear buttons, the quote unquote nuclear buttons, waiting for stuff to kick off. It's just a show of strength. It's a show that it's not going to be easy. I'm not going to roll over. You're going to have to dig me out of bring me out of my basement to do this stuff. So it's interesting to me where all of this stuff is headed. It's interesting and concerning where all of this stuff is headed, because I don't see, depending on, and maybe I'm wrong, right? As preppers, and I've got to say this, maybe I'm wrong. As preppers, we tend to look at the dark side of everything and the worst case scenario, because we try to prepare for all of that stuff. So maybe this thing in the Ukraine, I don't see Ukraine winning. But maybe Putin maintains his happiness or stays happy with a certain part of Ukraine, just the eastern parts of Ukraine, and then stops his stuff for the time being. Maybe that does happen, and then maybe China relax. North Korea, they're always going to be, look at me, I've got nuclear weapons. Kim Jong-un is basically a teenager with a brand new Corvette. You know, he's owns his own little spot on the planet, which is insane, and is a spoiled, rotten child with nuclear weapons. So always an issue, but nothing like China and Russia. But that could be, you know, one of those axes. You know, Italy wasn't that big when you're talking about World War II. You don't hear a lot about them, but they did a lot of stuff that helped move that situation along. So India, Pakistan. I mean, who knows where everybody aligns or if they align? You know, it doesn't necessarily mean they have to, but you just don't know where this stuff goes. There are absolutes, though, when you talk about these the UN, these westernized worlds, the United States, and when you talk about China, Russia, Iran, North Korea, all of those on the other side of the table. And I don't think, and I don't know, I don't think you're going to see nukes flying. Because that is, you know, mutual destruction. And and again, these people want to maintain their power. They don't want to destroy everything and start over from scratch. That being said, I think the bigger concern when you're talking about nukes is the North Koreas, is the Irans, the people that if there is no other option, no other choice, like they're going down anyway. I can see them launching stuff. I was watching Angry Prepper show the other day, and he was talking about Russia having a dead man switch. Basically means even if you take out the whole machine in Russia, there's some sort of plane that flies over and triggers all these nuclear sites to launch their missiles. So I mean, who knows? I don't see. I mean, I'm always concerned about a nuclear threat. But I don't see it going to that extent. I see a lot more happening before it gets to that final stage of, hey, we've got no other option at this point. Now, does that mean that somebody, you know, maybe one here, one there, you know, strategically placed, I suppose? I don't know that would kick off a whole nuclear war, but I don't know that it wouldn't either. So it's just a tough situation. I think we're, with all of the other stuff on the table these days, and all of this stuff that's going on, I just think it's one of those things that really could be one of those big things that kicks off at some point. I don't know. You know, I'm sure people thought the same thing during the Cold War. I know people thought that when they were in the 60s, when they were building bunkers and doing stuff like that, I know they thought the same things. And it didn't come to fruition. With Reagan in there and the Cold War and all that stuff, nothing happened. But that's not to say it won't. Throughout history, these conflicts and everything have happened over and over again. And for people to feel like that we're, as a society, we've evolved so much that we're past this global conflict, this war thing, where people are conquering different lands and stuff. We're seeing it right now in Russia. We're seeing it go on. There's a lot of other issues, you know, behind the scenes stuff. Why are they doing that? Why do they feel threatened by the West and all that? And I'm not trying to defend Putin by any means. The guy is an asshole and it belongs in hell right next to Hitler for what he's done to his people and his country. But another one of those maniacal narcissists that own their own piece of the globe and feel like they can do whatever they want. So I don't know. It's just something it really concerns me when you think about our reaction. You know, Pelosi going to Taiwan, sure hope she stays. That would be nice. With Pelosi going to Taiwan, and then the reaction to anything, anytime somebody says something about Taiwan, our reaction is, as politicians anyway, their reaction is closed-lipped. John Cena comes to mind with this crap when he basically put up his hostage video apologizing to China for talking good about Taiwan. That is the mentality of these days, and that is concerning because when you look at what these other countries are doing, this axis, that China, Russia, and Iran, North Korea, all these people that could come together, this BRICS union, which I forget what the countries that are involved in it, but the two big ones are China and Russia. You see that alliance being formed, and you can't help but wonder. And then you see the United States with this mentality of, hey, you know, please don't do that. You know, we're going to be diplomatic about the whole process. And you need somebody in there that's going to say, no, we're not going to deal with your crap. You better not do it. That has been the mentality of the United States my whole life. Through every president that I've known has had that mentality, good, bad, indifferent, whatever. They've all had that mentality. It's only until recently, and I think probably Obama is when all of this started happening, with the hating of America, with the we're not exceptional, we're not better than everyone else. Yes, we are. I hate to tell it to you, but yes, we are. Or maybe that's part of my concern as well, is are we really that type of country that I grew up knowing and loving? That take no crap country, that, invincible, like I said in the beginning of the video. Are we still that country, or are we going to be anywhere near that in 20, 30 years? I think our military capabilities are above everyone else in the world. I sure hope so anyway. That's my feeling, because that's always the feeling I've had. But it's just hard to tell these days. Are we going to be able to sustain this current spending, all the spending we do and all the different things that this government does? Is it going to be able to sustain to the point where when something does kick off, we're going to even have the capabilities to defend ourselves? And with the gun laws and all that crap, they're trying to ban AR-15s and stuff now. With all of that stuff going on, regardless if the United States can defend themselves, are American citizens going to be able to defend themselves? My thought is, hell yes, we are. They can try to pass laws all they want for as long as they want, and it would take a couple hundred years, I think anyway, for them to get everything through that they want to get through. And I don't know that they'll ever get everything through they want to get through, because with politicians, it just doesn't end. There's always something else to ban. There's always something else that's dangerous to society. There's always another reason why they are useful. So it's just the direction we're heading, the types of things you see on the global stage all concern me as far as, what's going on in the future. Now, right now, it is I am concerned about my home. It is a localized, I say it all the time, prepare locally, then prepare nationally, and then prepare globally. Right now, my plans are putting food on the table. My plans are having the lights stay on, getting the bills paid, doing all those things here at home while I'm still paying attention to these fiascos that go on. I probably pay more attention to as far as politics and all of this stuff than a lot of people care to, because it is pretty damn nerve-wracking and probably not all that healthy to pay this much attention to the politics and all that stuff on a world stage. But I think it is very concerning, and we're, like I said, who knows what the timeline is. And that's why right now I'm more worried about this recession. And even though they won't call it a recession, it's a recession. I'm more worried about the inflation and where all of this stuff is going in the next few months. But at the same time, paying attention to the stuff going on a world stage and where that is all going and our reaction to all this stuff. Like I said, I don't care. I don't know what's going on behind the scenes with the Pentagon and the military. That could be completely different than what the public perception is. But the president of the United States should show strength and should not be. It's embarrassing these days. It really is. As much as I almost feel bad for the guy because he's just not there. It is embarrassing. And while our allies and stuff are not saying anything in front of the cameras, they are behind the scenes. And Xi Jinping and Putin and Kim Jong-un, they're all saying it. They all see it. Everybody sees it. And we've still got 2.5 more years of this stuff to go. So that is my concern. Who's leading us at this point in time, and what is the perception of the United States as far as strength goes? I don't care what they think about us as people, but as strength goes. At any rate, I'm going to get out of here. It's been about 30 minutes, so a little bit longer than I thought I was going to talk. But like I said, we're going to probably go over this and a few other things as well over at the Survival Preppers Sunday night live stream, which we do every Sunday night, 7 p.m. Eastern. We also do those 7 p.m. Eastern on Wednesdays as well, and that's the Blabbercast, where we just kind of, pick a few articles, current events, stuff that just happened in the news, talk about them, politicians doing stupid crap. We do a lot of politics over there. It is not clean. So if you've never been over there and watched that show, it's a really good show, but it is not clean. So I just wanted to warn everybody. I try to keep everything as clean as possible over here. This one was really tough because this one really aggravates me, and I had to bite my tongue a few times. So, but it is a little bit more vocal over there. So just know that if that's not for you, then I'll be doing some stuff over here. But with that, they are good shows. And we also do the audio podcasts of those. And I will be doing, like I said last week, I'll be doing some live streams here over at the Survivalist Prepper YouTube channel because I like that interaction. This is going to be a premiere because it gives people an option to chat, and I like to get in the chat and talk with people. I've probably been in there tonight. But it's just a lot of fun. It's better than just watching, just a normal video. You actually get in there and chat and do stuff like that. So at any rate, though, if you have any questions on any of this stuff or comments on this stuff, something to elaborate on with this, I'll try to look through these comments and maybe we'll talk about it on the Survivalist Prepper show tomorrow night. So make sure and leave a comment below. But with that, I think I am done here today, everyone. If you got any ideas about videos you want to see in the future or anything like that, again, leave them in the comments below. Send me an email to dale@survivalistprepper.net, and we'll see what we can do. But with that, everyone, take care and prepare, and we'll see you in the next video.